would British troops respond if they were called upon by NATO to act in response to an invasion in Eastern Europe? Well, it's the Allied Reaction Force that would jump into action, and the UK's one div heads up the land component. Now, for a start, they'd have to get hundreds of vehicles to Europe, and that is a massive undertaking. So how would they do it? Well, that is what exercise Steadfast Start is all about.
Steadfast Start is the first ever deployment exercise for NATO's Allied Reaction Force.
And that's because the ARF was only stood up last summer. Now the UK needs to prove it can get hundreds of vehicles thousands of miles across Europe to fulfil its role of leading the land component. And how do you do that? Using ferries. One ship loaded with vehicles for the logistics support group travelled from Marchwood to Emden in Germany. Personnel will then make their way 2,300 miles by road to Romania. Another ferry is tasked with taking the light mechanised brigade vehicles from Marchwood via the Mediterranean to Greece, a journey that will take just over a week.
Typically on a normal vessel we'd load maybe 1,000 linear metres and we're loading 2,500 roughly onto this vessel. So it's a lot of tight space and making sure all the kit actually departs on the vessel and nothing's left back.
2,500 linear metres equates to 2.5 kilometres of vehicles lined up nose to tail. Exercise Steadfast Start is NATO's biggest exercise this year. 6 NATO nations will contribute to the land component of the ARF, being led by the UK. It'll be made up of nearly 4,000 personnel and just over 1,000 vehicles. Around half the people and most of the vehicles are British.
How does this kind of exercise differ from your experience of manoeuvres for Iraq and Afghanistan?
So this is on a much larger scale, at, in theory, much shorter notice. It's the first time that the UK has deployed a divisional headquarters with a number of brigades under command, taking on multinational forces as well. So we've got a big contingent of Spanish forces joining us, a big contingent of French forces joining us in Romania. And so it's a pretty big deal from the UK and from NATO's perspective. And as I said, it's the first ever deployment of the Allied Reaction Force. And we've been at high readiness for NATO since the 1st of July last year in 2024. And this is our big test to deploy us out into the far reaches of Eastern Europe.
Exercise Steadfast Start isn't just about land forces. It'll also test sea, air, cyber and space domains. It'll last for 3 months and will ensure NATO can deploy and sustain forces across thousands of kilometres. Claire Sadler, BFBS Forces News, Marchwood. Thanks for watching. For more from BFBS Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.